Now, since Vladimir Putin ordered the full invasion of Ukraine in February last year, hundreds of Russian troops unwilling to fight in the war have deserted. Now, facing up to 15 years in prison for refusing to serve, many have fled Russia. And DW reporter Natalia Smolentceva spoke to one former soldier who's been granted residency in Germany.
Munich, Germany. Vasily finally feels safe here. He doesn't want to give his real name or show his face, in order to protect his family back in Russia. He deserted from the Russian army to avoid taking part in Vladimir Putin's war against Ukraine.
I realized that there was no way out. I got a call from my unit and was told, you must either go to war or we will initiate criminal proceedings against you, and you will go to prison, and from there you will then go to war eventually anyway.
Vasily was trained in artillery. He studied at a military academy and served several years as a contracted officer. He got disillusioned with the military and tried to quit, but without success. When Russia invaded Ukraine, he got orders to depart to the front. Despite his refusal to go to war, Vasily was not fired. Then, on 21st of September 2022, Vladimir Putin announced mobilization and amended Russia's criminal code. Now it became nearly impossible to leave the army, and deserters face 15 years behind bars. Vasily decided to flee to Kazakhstan. And he was not the only one. According to human rights activists, at least 500 men have deserted from the Russian army since then. We spoke with another one of them. He also asked to remain anonymous. Unlike Vasily, he has actually been to the front line.
In February 2022, we were sent to the military exercises in Crimea, and on the 24th, the invasion began, and I took part in it. And that time, it was simply impossible to refuse, to say, I lay down my arms, then don't take part in it. You run forward, you'll be shot by Ukrainians. You run back, you'll be caught by your own.
Victor said he fought in Ukraine until summer 2022, when he got vacation leave. Yevgeny was also sent to take part in so-called exercises on the border with Ukraine in February of 2022. To get out, Yevgeny shot himself in the leg. But neither he nor Victor could quit the military. So they too fled to Kazakhstan. But it is not safe for them to stay here. They are afraid that Kazakhstan will extradite them to Russia.
I'm ready to face the court in person. I'm not afraid of it. I can even go through a lie detector test. My conscience is clear. Yes, I fought in the war. I shot because I wanted to survive.
But the West has not welcomed Russian defectors. Vasily is one of the first deserters who managed to leave Kazakhstan for Europe, even without a passport. He found a job at an IT company in Germany. The German embassy gave him so-called grey passport and a work visa.
When we passed border control, I was so happy that all this is now behind me. In Kazakhstan, police were looking for me. In Russia, they came to my relatives. But now it's all behind me, and I just need to board this plane and leave this country to realize that this is not a dream.
Now, in Germany, Vasily is getting used to normal life again. He is grateful to Germany for letting him in, and to Kazakhstan for letting him out. He shared his story so other servicemen in Russia know there is a way out of the bloody war in Ukraine.
And for more of this, I am joined by DW reporter Natalia Smolentceva, who filed the report you just saw. It's good to have you at the table, Natalia. So many of the deserters, as we collected in the report over there, they still fear the Russian state, even in exile. Are they not safe in foreign countries?
Well, the short answer is no, they're not, but differently in different places. You have to understand that for those people, it's really hard to travel outside Russia because most of them, the majority, they don't have a passport, they don't have a travel document. Because being in the military, you are usually not allowed to travel somewhere without the permission of your superior, and obviously deserting, you don't ask for that. So those people could only go to countries where they can travel without a passport, which is Armenia or Kazakhstan in that case. And those countries are really close to Russia, though there are it's a danger there that for them to be extradited to Russia because they're actually on criminal offense there. And this is what these men I've talked to have been telling me.
Right.
And there has already been a case of that, so they have right to fear that.
Yeah. And can you tell us more about some of the other challenges that Russian deserters face when coming to Germany, for example?
Well, it is practically impossible to come here in the first place because of lack of passport and visa. And, Germany and other European countries on paper say that they will protect those and they have right to asylum. But to apply for this asylum, first of all, you have to come to the country. And without a passport, it is extremely difficult. That's why there are NGOs and, the deserters themselves, they're trying to raise their voice and campaign and say, hey, we are here, we already don't want to fight, but please come and protect us, because they believe if, the Europe is willing to take them in, there will be more of these men to follow.
They've all left their families back home in Russia. What kind of problems or challenges do their families back home experience?
Well, they do face a lot of pressure because they've been called from, authorities, from these military officers, and ask, where's your son, where's your husband, why has he deserted? So people who also spoke to me, they refuse to say their names, even though they are outside, like this man in Germany. He's feared that his parents, for instance, or his other relatives will face persecution for what he's doing here and what he's saying about it. That have said, many have actually taken their families with them, like their wives or children. So, those parts of families are relatively safe, but even though the pressure is really high.
Natalia, tell us, you were hinting at some of the lobbying that rights groups are doing, but what is Germany's policy regarding Russian deserters? Has the country indicated that it will take in more of these Russian soldiers?
So a year ago, when Putin announced mobilization, German politicians came out and said, who is willing not to fight in this war, will lay down arms, will come here, will open doors for you. But there was just, a lot of that was political talk, and in practice it's really, really hard, first of all, to come to the country, and second, to apply for asylum. We've seen around 3,000 cases of application for asylum, but, very few of them have been proceeded or granted. And there are men who, theoretically could have been drafted in the army. For them, it's practically impossible to get asylum. While these men who have already been on the front line or were in the army, they have a right, and on paper they should be granted asylum. For those, it's hard to come to Germany to apply to asylum in the first place. So there are very few cases where this actually has been possible. So, humanitarian visas for those people or some other legal ways to come to the country to actually execute their right would be the solution.
All right. Well, really interesting intake there. Natalia, thank you so much for your great reporting. It was very good to hear the views of those deserters. Thank you so much for that. That is DW reporter Natalia Smolentceva.